could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us. And we appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening and watching, thank you guys for listening and watching. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Game Plan Podcast live stream. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in Tangeray, S as in Spoelstra, like Eric Spoelstra, who just coached the Miami Heat, and they lost in game one of these 2023 NBA Finals. You like how I did that, Lamar Gafford? Do you like
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
As many of you guys can see, Kennedy Miller, my main man, is not here with us. He is out currently on the high seas, on a cruise, having himself some fun. But that's not going to stop us here at the Game Plan Podcast from having some fun, because the man, the myth, the Louisiana high school sports legend, Lamar Gafford of SinLawPreps.com. He's hanging out with us. Lamar, how you doing today, dog?
Hey, man, I'm good. I'm good. You know, just got a chance to watch some good basketball. Got a run in before the basketball game as well, so I'm feeling even better. So I'm glad to be here with you guys right now.
All right, man. Appreciate it. So to get right into it, folks, don't forget, leave your questions and your comments in the chat. You never know. We might just read it out live here on the show. But to get into the business, the Denver Nuggets have taken game one, 104-93 against the Miami Heat. Jamal Murray led the Nuggets in scoring with 26 points and 6 assists. The Joker, Nikola Jokic, amazing again, 27 points, 14 assists, and 10 boards. So Lamar Gafford, what are your just like first initial thoughts about game one?
Well, I mean, the Nuggets who we thought they were. I mean, they're deep. They have a deep squad, obviously. I mean, there was at one point just after the third quarter where they had like 5 different players that had double digits. Of course, Jokic, he had a triple-double in this game. Of course, you also had Jamal Murray, who also had a big game on his own right. And then, of course, you had guys like KCP doing pretty well. You had guys like MPJ doing pretty well. Just a whole bunch of players that the Heat didn't have answers for. And on the other end, the Heat, I mean, they couldn't get, like, outside of Bam, they really didn't get a lot of consistent scoring. Obviously, Jimmy, he had a little bit of a tough game in his own right. But some of the other guys here, like Caleb Martin, who everybody was talking about before the series, you know, him having that Eastern Conference Finals doing pretty well. 1 for 7, only 3 points. Max Strus, 0 for 10, 0 for 9 from 3-point range. So they need to get some different players to really step up there, or this is going to be pretty much a short series. At one point, I said 5. I was going to give the Heat and having them bow out in 6. But right now, it's looking more like 5 at this point, because it just doesn't seem like they have the answers right now for what the Nuggets can bring. And the Nuggets are just playing pretty well as a team. That's just it.
I mean, my first initial thought at the beginning of this series, and especially game one, was I thought either team could come out flat and kind of sluggish for entirely different reasons. I thought the Nuggets might come out flat because, you know, they've had an extremely long layoff between sweeping the Lakers and the start of this series. And I thought the Miami Heat might come out a bit sluggish just because, man, they just got through a grueling series with the Boston Celtics. And the Nuggets, not flat in the least bit. They picked up right where they left off. And I think the biggest question for me when it leads to the Miami Heat is they got a whole lot of dudes that are like refund checks in college. You know what I'm saying? Lamar, walk with me right quick. You remember when you was in college and you remember like getting a refund check for like $2,000 or $3,000?
Oh, yeah, love that.
And you was not expecting that money?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Highsmith, Duncan Robinson, that's what those dudes are. That ain't the money you know you're going to get every month from working at your work study job, right? You can't continually and consistently count on that refund check to save you, right? These last couple series, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, homeboy who looks like Jamal Moore from Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Is that Gabe Vincent? I think that's him.
Yeah, that's Gabe Vincent. Yeah,
Gabe Vincent,
Nigeria's very own.
Yes, They got a whole lot of guys that are like those refund checks. And at a certain point, I mean, them checks gonna run out. And at a certain point, there's gonna be a sign on your door. Hey man, you owe us $600, right? So, I mean, that's just my thing. I think a team like this, they've had an amazing run. This is like you see a team go all the way to a 13 or 14 seed like George Mason did in 05 or 06. They made it all the way to the Elite Eight, as I remember it, right? With a less than talented bunch. That's what the Heat effectively have. They've got Jimmy Butler and a whole bunch of guys that we don't think can make this happen. Like it's the ghost of Kyle Lowry, the ghost of Kevin Love, a whole bunch of dudes from LA Fitness that we would not be able to pick out of a lineup.
Right.
And those are the dudes they're having to try to make this happen with. And they've made it this far. In fact, they've made it this far. This is admirable, right? After beating Milwaukee 4-1, gentlemen sweeping them. He's like, yeah, man, whatever else happens after this, man, it's cool, right? But the fact they've made it this far, I'm not going to think any less of Jimmy Butler and the rest of that squad if they get gentlemen swept or if they get swept in this series. I think they win one because my thing is every time they were able to cut the lead, every time they were able to get it down into single digits, it looked like they had some momentum. Jamal Murray knocks down a shot. Jokic knocks down a shot. Porter knocks down a shot. So, like, Denver has just continually, all postseason long, had answers. And I don't think Miami got anything that can figure that out.
Nah, I don't think so either. And it's just like, you know, at one point in the game, we were looking at in the start of the fourth quarter when we both were looking at the game, and we saw the zone that the Heat were able to play out there. I mean, I understand, but the Nuggets are just shooting too well for you to consistently go into that zone, and you're going to have to guard. I mean, you have to try to double Jokic, but then the problem is if you double Jokic, you're going to have one person out there in the open that could also make shots. And let it be not the wrong person. Like if it's MPJ, good night. You know, it's over pretty much at that point. And I'll give credit. You know, Bam tried to do his best in guarding Jokic. Unfortunately, he couldn't. At least he did well on the offensive end. But, I mean, like you said, they're going to have to figure out something. Now, obviously, Spoelstra, he's very good in making these adjustments. We'll see what happens in game 2. But at this point, I don't know what the answers is going to be. I mean, what do you do?
I mean, and that's a wild thing to say after game 1 of the NBA Finals. I don't know what they're going to do. But I was watching the game, and I had like a similar thought. And the bigger problem that Miami is going to have is, yo, man, they ain't got the size or the strength. And because if you looked at it, man, Aaron Gordon was backing them boys down, okay? Having Shamar Moore guard him, having Caleb Martin try to guard him, this ain't about to work. And you can't try to put Bam on him or something like that because then who gonna guard Jokic? You know what I'm saying? And Bam, height-wise, is like 4 or 5 inches shorter than Jokic. Now, he can handle up a little bit more on the weight side of things. He can like push his weight around a little bit, but Bam can only get you but so far. You know what I'm saying? And so I think they're going to have to rely on that zone, which you're going to play a zone against a team that passes the ball well and shoots the ball well from the three. Like Jokic is shooting like 50% from the three-point line. Murray's shooting in the 40s. Porter shooting in the 40s. You know what I'm saying? Bruce Brown, mid to high 30s. KCP around the same spot. They got dudes that, you know, if they get an open shot, man, they're going to can it. So that is my thing. What exactly do they go to, right? And if Bam goes to the bench, who they going to go? Who guards Jokic? Oh, Cody Zeller. Woo. Like Cody Zeller's the guy that's going to have to make this happen for them. And I think the thing about doubling Jokic is they really can't try that because that plays into what he does.
Right.
And if you're playing into what he does literally better than just about anybody, best passing big man, one of the best passing big men I think we've ever seen. So, look, they going to need some refund checks to show up, man. That is like really my first thought. They're going to need them checks, bro.
Well, and I tell you, the one refund check that they will have showing up will be Tyler Hero. Now, we don't know when that refund check going to hit. That refund check might hit in time. That refund check might also hit when they're, I don't know, $1,000 in the hole. But we know that refund check is going to hit. It's just, will it be too late when it hits? That's the big question there.
And if, like, I think another issue that the Heat have is they don't have enough good defenders.
Right.
Like, they do not have enough good defenders. Like, if you have to resort to playing the zone, and we know you, like, the big thing we know about the Miami Heat defensively is when in doubt, we're going to play a zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going to do. Play zone. And that means at the NBA level, you don't have enough NBA level defenders to where you can guard man to man. That's the problem. So if Tyler Hero comes back, we know where Duncan Robinson's going to go, right back to the bench, getting splinters in his ass. Okay. And like I said, they need all the offense they can get. They need all the offense they can get. Right. But, like, really, where do they adjust?
That's, like I said, that's the question. I mean, do you bring Kevin Love at this point? But at this point, what's he going to give you defensively? He's not going to give you anything defensively. He's going to, I mean, still offense. So unless they sign some type of way to get Dennis Rodman off of retirement, clone him, and take him to like the 90s or the 80s, I don't see anything.
So, all right. So over under. This series ends in 5.
I'll say 5 right now, yeah.
I tend to agree, but then again, I start thinking about the Heat have gotten this far, right? With most of us underestimating them. And the thing I think that might be working against them this time is that Denver's like, oh, no. We've seen y'all's movies. Y'all not about to get us, right? And credit to Denver because they've been locked in. Like this entire playoffs. Like there's not been a moment, even in like a slight moment of like momentary slips in concentration, they're right back to it. Right back to it. And if that's going to be the case, Jimmy Butler's going to have to go completely nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to have to be. Because if not, man, they're going to get run. Like, it's crazy to think about. The Nuggets won tonight's game. Jokic dominated, and he took, 12 shots? Or something like that?
Yeah.
The best player on the floor takes 12 shots and dominates the whole thing. That, good folks, is demoralizing.
Right. By the way, I have something to also say, too. So, obviously, you know, with the Nuggets scoring 100 points, you know how they always do these free giveaways for every team that scores 100?
Wait, okay, talk to me.
Yeah, I wonder if the Nuggets, you know, with the giveaways and all this stuff, like free taco night if you're in LA or something like that.
Yeah,
I wonder if Denver did the free dispensary.
Get you a free zip if the Nuggets score more than 100 points.
And Jokic gets a triple-double. Hey, 2 for 2 of them things if that happens.
Look, man, all dispensaries would be out all over town. If it was Jokic gets a triple-double, man, they'd be calling folks like, hey, don't do that no more. We're losing way too much money on this. But, Lamar, you might need to call somebody for that one. Be like, hey, you want to make you some extra money? Get you a free zip if they hold somebody under 100 points. Oh, so we got a comment that says Spoelstra can coach 7 guys from LA Fitness to at least 1 W.
Yeah, he can.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. It's going to be tough.
Right. But I will say, at least the one good thing about it is we all know the Jimmy blackout game is going to happen. Like, it's just going to happen. It's going to happen. And that's why I was waffling between 5 and 6 at one point of the series. I mean, I said 5 Monday. I said 6 tonight. Looks like 5 now, but it's like, we know the Jimmy blackout game is going to happen, and we know that Spoelstra is going to do pretty well with adjustments. So I'd say the 5 or 6 games might be all right there in that one. But more 5 right now, at least.
Yeah, more 5. And what I don't see happening with a team like Denver is them letting the Miami Heat back into the series the way Miami let Boston back into the series. And I might want to add, Boston would have won that series had they not humiliated themselves in game 3 and decided, you know what, we're just not going to play. Like, had they have shown up to play and cracked one of those 2 ball games, one of those first 2, they'd have won this series. They spotted them one too many games. And by the time we got to game 7, their legs were dead. And by the way, they're going to have to get rid of Jaylen Brown because it's a wrap. Like, I don't know how long you can go in the NBA. Like, he's been in the NBA 6, 7 years, closer to 8, and he still can't dribble. Like, how can the second best player on the NBA basketball team not be able to dribble? It's beyond me.
Beats me, man. Beats me. I mean, I saw some of those turnovers, and those were just like simple turnovers, like turnovers that a capable NBA player would not be able to make. But I don't know. He's just gonna have to work with his handles. I mean, maybe hit up Kyrie just to help him out with his handles or something like that. I don't know. But at this point, it's just like, oh.
Hey, he gonna be probably out in Portland somewhere. Hope he likes the Pacific Northwest, because it's a wrap for it's a wrap for them. And at the beginning of the series, I was really of the Boston Miami series. I was thinking, man, it's over. They're gonna have to fire the coach. They're gonna have to do a lot, right? But then I'm like, you know what? After the end of the entire series, I'm like, you know what? Their problems are really on the margins. Your best player, Jason Tatum, takes really tough shots. Why? Because they have a structural issue, a major structural issue. You still really don't have a point guard, right? Mm-hmm. And if you still really don't have a point guard, you need somebody that can get him a couple of better shots a game. And Jaylen Brown, and I know Jaylen Brown likes to be real sensitive. He was upset. He was involved in trade talks last summer with Kevin Durant. And I'm like, bruh, I would give up my firstborn to get Kevin Durant. When will Jaylen Brown ever, just in terms of value, equal or approximate or get close to approximating Kevin Durant? If the answer is never, send a U-Haul truck to the crib. And I will say, shout out to Joe Mazzulla too, because I thought he was completely overmatched, but showed me some.
Yeah. I mean, at least he did bounce back from that 3-0 deficit. Now, I did say one point, like, I felt like you're one, you probably don't pull the trigger, especially after you give him the interim spot and you basically took the interim tag off of him during the season and basically said that this is your guy and stuff like that. Now, I know a lot of people were like, well, man, they don't have that much time, but I mean, at least he got them to that same point, to at least the Final Four, one of the last 4 teams that were standing, got them to a great record, got them to a position where they could be contenders. At least there's that. But let's see what he can do this year. Let's see what he can do during the offseason if he grows as a coach that way, learns from his mistakes, and be able to do something like that. Because, yeah, like you said, too, the Celtics time, they're on the clock right now, and they're going to have a whole lot of decisions to make, because it's like, one, the Jaylen Brown thing is going to be the major thing, because it's like, do you trade him now and see if you can get good value for him? Do you don't trade him and just ride this thing out and risk losing him at the end of the year? Or do you go ahead and give him the max contract, but then you're severely handicapping yourself on 2 guys who are good enough to probably get your team to the conference final, but now that if they are now, with the talent being depleted a little bit because of the contracts and stuff, are those 2 guys able to consistently get you there as the 2 guys and then just a bunch of dudes?
I mean, you have to ask the question, because, and it's weird to really think about the idea that Jason Tatum and them boys, like Tatum's 24, 25 years old, but he's gone to the conference finals, I think 4 times, made to the NBA finals once.
Right.
It's weird to think about that because I think a lot of times, like, you would assume he's older than he actually is given his resume and his playoff experience. That dude's still fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think the last couple of years is pretty, I think that dude's probably your best player. That's probably your centerpiece you keep, right? Brown is the guy you probably going to move up out of here because they've gone to 4 or 5 conference finals with Brown, Tatum, and Smart.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won a title yet, right? One of them is probably going to have to go. And Brown's the guy that probably is you're probably going to have to get rid of because the amount of other supplementary pieces you're going to be able to get back for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the guy you roll out. He's probably the guy because, and I think, and like it all depends. It all depends what they get back. I've seen, and you talked to me about there was a possible trade, like you saw it online for DeJounte Murray and John Collins. Did I see that right?
Yeah. That was one of the trades I saw from Clutch Points.
Are they keeping Robert Williams in this trade?
Now, they would probably have to get rid of Robert Williams because I ran with the trade deadline, the trade machine.
Okay.
And to make it work, I would think you have to give up Robert Williams.
You make it work. You can find maybe. I don't know how much longer you can ask out of Al Horford, who's 111 years old.
Do you want to come back to Atlanta?
Hey man, old Yeller is still out here. Yeah. Al Horford, he's still out here, and he is still as long as he can still light Joel. Put the clamps on Embiid. You got to keep him.
Yeah.
All right, folks, put your questions in the comments in our chat. We're about to start answering some of your questions and your comments. We got one comment that says, I think from my man Mark, MPJ is not the sniper y'all making him out to be. I don't know where this is all coming from. He has gotten 20 seconds of airtime out of y'all all playoffs. Okay. I actually had the basketball reference for him pulled up. So this year, he is shooting 3 of 7 from the three-point line. That is 41% from the three-point line in these playoffs. And he shot 41% from the field. 41% from the three-point line this year, 44% 2 years ago, and 42% a year before that. So, yeah, that's kind of where that's coming from. You all can ask us questions about NBA free agency as well, too. Throw all your questions out there. I think we saw something yesterday, me and Lamar, we saw something that said James Harden in Houston is a pretty strong possibility. And, bro, they ain't about to win nothing.
Man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because obviously, you got your guy, Ime Udoka, now coming to Houston, obviously.
Oh,
and God. I mean, I haven't, and this is my question about Ime Udoka. Now, we know that he was able to carry the Celtics to the finals, obviously, in his first year. But we haven't seen him really work with a team that's like a rebuilding squad yet. It takes a whole lot of patience. I mean, obviously, I think we were talking about this yesterday, and we said that the right coach for them would have been Monty Williams. By the way, shout out for getting the bag over there in Detroit. I think he's going to do very well there. But
and even if he doesn't do well, he'll do very well at Bank of America. Okay, 86 years, $80 million.
Man, he's getting that. I don't think he got that type of contract when he was a player.
They weren't getting that kind of money back then.
For him to get that as a coaching contract, get your money, black man, get your money.
Oh yeah.
But I digress. But to have Ime Udoka there now, and with a bunch of young whippersnappers over there, like Kevin Porter Jr. and all those other guys there, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to trade some of that capital? Are you going to develop those guys there? Or somebody is going to have a gut check time, I feel like.
I think my first thought is the fact that the thought that James Harden would even come back. How far has he fallen in 3 years? 3 years after you forced your way out of town and quit, because that is what he did. He quit on the Houston Rockets. 3 years after that, you're like, yeah, this is probably where I'm gonna have to go back, right? And he ain't the same dude coming. He wouldn't be the same dude coming back, right? Because my thing is, if you're the Rockets, are you just trying to put some asses in some seats? Because that's if that's what you're trying to do, then okay, cool, I guess, right? Like Ime Udoka and James Harden gonna paint the town red. They gonna be at the club, okay? James Harden just wants a wingman in these Houston streets. They're gonna be at camp, at Dreams, 13, all of them. But in all seriousness, if they bring James Harden back, how much does like if you've got this young core of Green and Porter Jr., Jabari Smith, does James Harden take the ball out of their hands? The answer to that is yeah, right? Those young guys need to develop. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think like we talked about yesterday, is Ime Udoka the coach that can take a young team and make them good, right? Is he a Larry Brown type of coach? I don't know. I know Ime Udoka can take a good team and get them over the hump. But is he the type of coach that can coach young players? That is, I think, remains to be seen. And my big thing is with Ime Udoka is, and I understand why he did it, I think he took the wrong job. But I think he took this job because he really couldn't have been sure if someone was going to offer him one. So he took the first offer that he got.
Right.
Which makes sense. But I think fits for, I think, what he's really good at, or at least what we've seen in the 1 year of Ime Udoka being the head coach, is taking a good team and getting them over the hump. So a team like Philly, a team like Phoenix, a team like Milwaukee, great fits for Ime Udoka. The Rockets, I don't know. I really don't know, but I do know this. Ime is going to have himself a time. He's going to have himself a time. He's going to paint the town red. And they're going to have, like, you know how, I don't know if you ever heard this story. They used to have pictures of Suge Knight in the security booth at the Universal Records offices.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be for Ime Udoka at these clubs and these nightlife spots out in Houston. Don't let this man in the door. Don't let him up in here. That's what it's going to be for Ime Udoka.
Hey, man, win or lose, man, win or lose. Like, Harden's gonna make sure that he's gonna be right. You win, make sure my guy has a good time. We lose, make sure my guy has a good time. He gets fired, make sure my guy has a good time.
Hey,
he gets an extension, make sure my guy has a good time.
Hey, James and Ime Udoka gonna be going to Vegas on the team off days together. I would just want to be a fly on the wall for those nights in that section.
And not just only in Houston. I mean, can you imagine on the road trips, like in the long road trips that they may have in some desirable city, Miami, LA, New York, Philly. I mean, I'm pretty sure he knows where Philly's at.
Hey, Ime Udoka is going to show up to coach the game smelling like hookah. I can see it now. So let's go to our next question. How long do you think Pop has left, even with Big Parlay, Victor Wembanyama coming in here? What do you think, Lamar?
As long as he wants. Nah, I say about that. I mean, I'm pretty sure getting Big Parlay in there gives about 5 years in the counter right now at this point. I mean, at least.
Pop is what, 73, 74 at this point?
Mm-hmm.
So at 73, 74, you would think he wouldn't have long left. But I think one thing to keep in mind was that his wife passed a couple years ago. So I think like this is one of those things that keeps him out of the house. So, and I think he likes coaching young players because it's been weird to see him the last couple of years coach young guys and coach teams where he's trying to develop teams. Because like we got to talk about a little bit earlier, I've never seen Greg Popovich coach a team full of developing young players. We've always seen the Spurs win 50 games and compete and win titles. That's been the thing. But I think given the young talent the Spurs are going to have coming back, and you put Big Parlay in there, I think the goal is to hand this off to the next coach, you know, give him the keys to a house that's fully rebuilt and fully remodeled.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought. So, we got a comment. I don't know how much he liked Murray. You mean DeJounte Murray? I mean, from what I knew, they said he liked DeJounte Murray fairly well. But they were like, they looked around and was like, yo, with DeJounte as our best player, the best we are is a play-in team at best. And we're going to have to, we're going to tear it down to the studs to get a difference maker. Because at that point with DeJounte Murray, the Spurs were too good to be bad and be terrible, but not good enough to truly contend, right? And you're in kind of like that no man's land. So it's like, all right, man, we can trade Murray. I mean, they gave DeJounte Murray away, to be honest with you. They gave him away. They were like, yeah, we don't want players that are going to help us compete. Not this year. But from what everybody says, they said he liked DeJounte Murray a whole lot. And, DeJounte liked him. They both just looked around and was like, yo, this timetable for each of us doesn't work anymore. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I'm pretty sure that they liked each other and everything. But I think with them getting rid of him, it's kind of like Pop gets this spark back, like you said, about developing young guys and all that stuff. And that's why I say the 5 years will probably be something there, because now getting the chance to develop a guy like Wembanyama out there, and kind of like, how he did with Tim Duncan earlier in his career, tried to get him to develop into the point that he is not just a great NBA player, but a Hall of Fame NBA player to that point. And I think that's probably the reason why I'd say that 5 years, at least try to get him into the early points of his career, and then hand it off to whoever you want to hand it off to. Duncan, some other assistant coach, Becky Hammond.
I think, one thing I will say is my expectations for next year are a bit tempered, because I know people are bringing up the fact that, the last time the Spurs had the number one pick, the Spurs went from a team that won like 18 or 19 games to a team that won 56 games. But people got to remember that year they won 19 games. The whole team was hurt. Dave Robinson was hurt. They traded Sean Elliott, and they was like, we're going to shut this thing down. We're going to tank this out. Because the year before they tanked it out, they won 56, 57 games. So you drop Tim Duncan on a healthy team that 2 years ago won 56, 57 games. Oh, yeah, surprise, surprise. They're back to 56, 57 games, right? But I don't expect like the trajectory. I don't think he's going to have the trajectory of a Tim Duncan. Like, he's not going to walk through the door and be one of the best power forwards in the NBA, right? Year two, be the best player on the championship team. The rest of that roster, the rest of that infrastructure around isn't built up in that way yet. You know what I'm saying? So, like, temporary expectations. As a Spurs fan, look, as long as we ain't out here humiliating ourselves, winning 17 or 18 games again. Look, we win 25, 26. I'm cool. Because I know we finally have a direction and a path forward. So we got our next question. How many of these teams in the East are about to blow this up?
Ooh, boy.
The Hawks, the Sixers, the Knicks, they refuse to trade Randall. Lamar, what you think?
I think if you look at it right now, and I'm looking at the standings as we speak, the Sixers are an interesting scenario, because if they lose Harden, you have to think about that. But you also got to do right by Embiid. The Cavs are not blowing it up. The Knicks are interesting because they got to get one more player in there, but you got to get the right player. And let's hope that they don't try to overpay for Karl-Anthony Towns. The Nets, young guys, but I think the Hawks will probably blow it up, honestly. I mean, where are they going? They have no direction. That's the question. That's the question there. The Bulls, yeah, you lose Vucevic, it's over. You might as well trade Levine and DeRozan at that point. The Raptors, yeah, they're done. Yep. The Raptors, they're done. I mean, it's over for them, honestly.
I think the thing about a team like the Knicks, I think the Knicks are closer, but Julius Randle can't be their second best player. I think that's pretty obvious here. And I don't know how far they're going to be able to go with Jalen Brunson being their best player, given, the whole small guard thing, right? But At least, like with a team like the New York Knicks, we shouldn't be talking about blowing it up because damn it, at least they're watchable again.
Yeah.
Okay, how many times? I'm 27 years old. How many times in my life have the Knicks been watchable? I can really think about maybe 3 years, 3, maybe 4, 3. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, they've been abject. So, maybe they can get better around the margins, right? But for them, for the New York Knicks right now, getting to the second round, hey, they really shouldn't be sneezing about that. Okay.
Right.
The Atlanta Hawks, yeah, they got problems because your best player, Trae Young, you ain't gonna win nothing with him. He one of them dudes like Trae can put up a whole lot of points, but you ain't gonna win nothing. Brad Beal, same kind of way. Yeah, he gonna put up a lot of points. Yeah, he can score, but like you not like how much is he going to affect winning? I mean, Trae Young is the best player in playing history, but I don't really think you can put that on your resume. I do really well in the 9-10 game. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how far that really goes. you know what I'm talking about? Like, is he what is he gonna win? The Stephon Marbury playing MVP? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's only but those in that with the Sixers. The problem they got is you got a second round roster.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden been a second round dude his whole career, with the exception of 2 years in Houston. Right. In 1 year, he was the 3 guy at Oklahoma City. And then when they got to the finals, he was out doing what James Harden does, being out drunk. Right. And James Harden ain't the same guy he was. You know what I'm saying? They picked Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. Like they got a second round roster. Yeah. And as great as Embiid is, as great as he is, that dude ain't been out of the second round in his career. At this point, that's inexcusable, right? At what point, you do have to ask, what point do we blow this thing up and start from scratch? That is, like, at this point, this is a fair question to ask because around Embiid, you've had Jimmy, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. Like, you've had James Harden. Like, we've trotted a bunch of different dudes in and around Joel Embiid in his orbit, all to go to the second round. Of course, they've had some bad bounces. The game against Game 7 against the Raptors, that Kawhi shot that just doop dropped. Okay, fine, yeah, cool, right? But this year, I think they should have been able to get it done. So I don't know. And we got another comment. Oh, somebody said, car accidents are watchable too. They have compilation vids. Yo, man, Marcus, you watch compilation vids of car accidents? Hey, man, dog. You are a glutton for punishment, my man. You help. Okay. And so we got
some of Glorious Rex, man. Some of Glorious Rex.
Hey, man, a Glorious Rex I could think of right now is Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Okay. that's a Glorious Rex. Okay, I got one. It says right quick. Trailblazers, Pelicans, Timberwolves. Who has the oddest roster predicament? The T-Wolves. The T-Wolves have the oddest roster predicament. Maybe one of the oddest ones in the league because, in theory, just talent-wise, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, Gobert, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, like they've got a good roster, right? And given the amount of talent Karl Anthony Towns has, you're thinking, all right, these guys should at least be able to make something happen, get out of the first round, do something. But at this point, I think they should cut baby Karl Anthony Towns. He's been with that team for 8 going on 9 years. And they've had Jimmy Butler play next to him, Jimmy Butler, D'Angelo Russell, and that's his partner. They're trying the Mike Conley thing right now. They gave up 4 1s and 4 pick swaps, Rudy Gobert, Zach LaVine, all of that, and they have had 3 trips to the first round. 3 first-round exits in 8 years, and that dude was the number 1 pick in the draft. Yeah, it's time to cut, baby. It's time to go. Like, maybe I would see what Portland wants. Like, hey, I call Portland, like, hey, Portland, you want Karl Anthony Towns? But if I'm Portland, I wouldn't know how much better Karl Anthony Towns would make me as a basketball team next to Damian Lillard. Like they got trouble, Jack. They in trouble.
Yeah, I definitely would agree and say the same thing for the Timberwolves. It's like I think the other two are slight tweaks here and there. Like if you're the Pelicans, all you just got to get is Zion to play. Like Zion plays, oh, that's it. I mean, we've already seen what New Orleans is able to do with Zion in the lineup, with a healthy Zion and with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. Like they were pretty much flirting with the best record in the West. Portland, maybe a few tweaks here and there as far as like getting some trades going on, but you can kind of make it work with Dame, or even if you want to ship Dame out and just start afresh. I mean, you can still make it work. It's just with the Timberwolves, there's just so much. You can't run it back with them. Obviously, a lot of people say that the trade with Gobert, they probably gave up too much for that. So you have to try to save face, and that means you might have to give up Towns, who obviously, from what I see, he doesn't really want to play power forward, even though he likes just shooting out and all that stuff. I don't know, but it's like, so you're gonna have to probably do that. I mean, because you've hit your ceiling with him. Try to make sure that you can do this with Ant as your top guy, and then just go from there. It's just a lot of things that they have to really work at this year, and of course, they have to be on top of these things because the rest of the West is getting better as we go along. OKC, they're going to be the second best team in their division. And they pushed them to that second best team in that division. That was before inserting Chet Holmgren, which was hurt. All right. And so like all these other teams in the West, I mean, they're gonna catch up. I mean, or at least have a talented roster that can at least give the Timberwolves something. So yeah.
I mean, so I'll say this for the Pelicans. I mean, the question is Zion, and it feels like the same thing we were saying about the Pelicans with Anthony Davis. Like, when can they get Anthony Davis healthy? And I think the biggest issue there is the training staff, and they are trying to remedy that because I think the owners of the Pelicans, Lamar, you're in Louisiana, you're more tapped in there. You might know this one. The owners of the Pelicans and the owners of New Orleans Saints, they're owned by the Bensons. That's the same Tom Benson.
Yeah, same ones, and so that means they also have the same athletic trainers and stuff.
Yes,
like
that was the exact point I was about to get at. They share the training staff with the New Orleans Saints. So both of them are probably getting the scraps, right? Getting half of the level of care they could be getting. So they just let go of the athletic trainer, the head athletic trainer. Now, I don't know if they're going to just put another guy in charge that worked for the Saints, but they got to figure out a way to get Zion healthy. So, but if Zion's healthy, like everyone's mentioned, cancel Christmas, because if you got a team where CJ McCollum is your third best player, you cook it with gas. Like, typically, I think in the NBA, we always think about who's your best player, who's your second best player. But I think we need to start like reorienting our thinking and thinking about, all right, who's the three guy? Who's that third guy they go to? CJ can't be your best player. CJ, depending on who the number one guy is, probably can't be your second best player. CJ's your third guy. Oh boy.
And you got a squad.
They got dudes, man. If they can keep Zion healthy, even though he'd be dressing like Bernie Mac or George Wallace, or somebody who used to be on Def Comedy Jam in the 90s, if they can keep Big Zion healthy, oh boy, it's going to be sick. That's my thing, man. It's going to be sick. Anybody else have any more questions in the chat? You could ask us like any other NBA questions you may have. Ask us about the Lakers. You got questions about LeBron. Yes, Mark. We do know how big of an if it is. It's a big, my 600-pound life if. Okay. It's a big one. Do I bet on Zion? Not really. I don't really bet on Zion. But Lamar, I do have a question for you, since ain't nobody put it in the chat here. Man, you think LeBron retires?
No, he's just saying stuff. He's just saying stuff. At this point, man, LeBron's always says, "Hey, man, look at me. I'm out here. I'm good. I'm good. Direct all your attention to me and all that stuff because I'm not ready to give up any bit of the spotlight right now." And sometimes we just got to call LeBron out on some of this stuff, man. Like we really do.
If I'm operating and thinking LeBron is operating in good faith, like LeBron is legitimately considering retiring, even though I don't think he's serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, like you said, pay attention to me. And I can get why somebody like LeBron would do the whole pay attention to me thing because the world has revolved around him since he was in the 8th grade. So I get how that could be a hard thing to where someone's paying attention to someone else, right? But if he is seriously considering retiring, if he is, you should. Because there are legitimate reasons why maybe, just maybe, you should retire. Like you're 38 going on 39 years old. You've played 35,000 minutes. Your foot is bad, and it is better for you to get out in front of it, the retirement thing early and retire while we think you can still play, then retire a year or 2 or 3 too late, and you're out here embarrassing yourself. Lamar, me and you, we're big wrestling fans. We remember them last couple of years of the Undertaker. Wrestling in 2017 against Roman Reigns. Wrestling a crown jewel with Kane against D-Generation X, where it looked like the preacher's deacons basketball game. We saw him out there in 2019 in Saudi Arabia with Goldberg, where I'm pretty sure the whole ring area smelled like Geritol. Right? Yeah. If LeBron is like, this isn't going to get, like, we've seen the best of LeBron James. We've already seen that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what we saw out of LeBron James this postseason, him not consistently being able to make jump shots. Like, I think he shot 22% from the three-point line in the playoffs. That's small. That's like decline. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's aging as gracefully as he possibly can, but that's a small sign of decline. The fact that he's having to operate from that low post, that Karl Malone area of the court now, that's a sign of decline. You know what I'm saying? And if he's going to keep pushing and keep playing at 38, 39 years old, given the fact that counting regular season and the amount of playoff games he's played, it equals up to 23 full NBA seasons.
Yeah.
You've played almost, like, on your body, almost a quarter century of NBA basketball. You have nothing else left to prove. The guys who think you're better than Michael Jordan think you're better than Michael Jordan. You're not winning over any new converts.
Right.
Go on. Go before it's painfully obvious that you
go home and be a family man.
And, you know, that actually brings us to another question. If you were Bronny, would you want to play on the same team as LeBron?
Hell no.
Hell no. Hey, look, man. No. And not a daddy like his. Okay, because it wouldn't be about this. LeBron wants to play with his son. That's more about LeBron than it is playing with his son. You know what I'm saying? I think LeBron said in the press conference, he never actually asked his son, did Bronny want to actually play with him?
Mm-hmm.
And because that's about you. That's about LeBron, right? Would I want to play with, like, in that situation? Because Bronny would come to the NBA at 21, 22.
Yeah.
Who wants to have your 45-year-old daddy on road trips? You trying to hit the streets. You trying to be out here, you know, at them spots Ime Udoka and James Harden gonna be at still.
Right.
You can't do that with LeBron. Hey, Pops, you better go out. Nah, so you come in here, come in my hotel room. We're going to watch film. Man, please. Please.
What?
Or what if LeBron seemed like the type of dude to be hanging out with the youngsters. And see, man, I can still hang. That's going to be LeBron James. Like, LeBron going to be out here dressing like, you remember that? Well, we can't really talk about him. The dude who's like, he in jail. He was 50 years old dressing like a AAU coach.
Yeah.
I think you know who I'm talking about.
I think, yeah. I do.
LeBron
Yeah.
gonna be like that, except he gonna be out at the club with it.
Mm-hmm.
Still trying to make it happen. No way I would want to play with him.
Nah, I mean, because and you look at it from those perspectives, like off the court. I mean, nah, you don't want to. I mean, you're trying to kick it your own self. And just because LeBron really didn't do a lot of that, because obviously he still has Savannah at home. I mean, from what we know, Bronny doesn't have that at this point. I mean, he's gonna try to get his. Same thing for Bryce whenever he gets the chance to get into the league, if he gets that opportunity. And then the same thing that if you're playing on the same team, it's not going to be like a King Griffey Jr., King Griffey Sr. situation.
Yes.
Where, Jr. was definitely the player, the stud player, and King Griffey Sr. was a very solid player in his own right, but at that point in time, he really wasn't the same guy that he was when he was with the Big Red Machine. But, LeBron would still be at least this figure of LeBron, and people are still going to compare, well, your daddy did this. How come you can't do this? And that's going to damage the psyche of the kid, man.
Yeah, and like it is still kind of shocking to me the fact that he's actually playing basketball. Because if I was play baseball, I go do anything other than play basketball. Because as LeBron James Jr., I'm fighting an uphill battle. I'll
Look
never
at Michael
win.
Jordan's kids.
Yeah, man, look at them, and even like more so, like it's he's swimming uphill. It wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be me. Now, if your daddy was James Posey or something, you can make this shake. Your daddy Jameer Nelson, you can make this shake. Your daddy LeBron, this don't swing as easily. Think about it. Jaren Jackson Jr. We don't never talk about his daddy.
No.
Never. All right, let's go back to these questions and these comments. Jasmine, Mark, both said, he who shall not be named, who my man Mark said Candyman was at them high school basketball games in a snapback and a shooting sleeve. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And they need to put some extra time on his sentence for that alone. Or the time he was in the music videos with that Iverson shooting sleeve, with the compression joint in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, And then we got another comment that says, Bronny likes wider pastures. We're going to talk about that offline. All right.
We will.
Look, let's move on. Have y'all talked about Ja Morant yet in the impending punishment? Jasmine, no, we have not. So we can get to it now. Lamar, we were talking right before the show started, and it said the NBA has concluded their probe, and they found some other information and things like that. In short, it sounds like they're going to throw a Harry Potter book at Ja Morant. Demetrius is probably not going to be playing at the start of this year.
Yeah.
And my thing is, and I've talked to a few people like privately about this, there's something up here not right with him mentally. Not that he's like paranoid or schizophrenic or something like that, but he's got problems. And my thing is, with anything, does a suspension help fix that problem, right? Because he needs to go somewhere, talk to some sort of professional to help figure some things out relating to stress, figuring out just blatantly, why is he so self-destructive? Why is he self-sabotaging? That's what somebody needs to figure out. Like, you can send somebody, like they sent him off to 3 or 4 days to detention, a boys' camp, and that obviously served no one. All right. The fact that we're talking about this again in June, after what happened in March or April, indicates he should not have come back to play, which was obvious then, But the NBA needed him to play because they had to sell these ads. Nike needed him to sell these shoes, and the Grizzlies needed him to win them games or to try to win them games.
Yeah.
So they put their own needs and preferences above his long-term, maybe you can say well-being or health or whatever the case happened to be, but it's obvious he shouldn't have been out there, right? My thing is, I want him to get better and figure out what's wrong. That's it. That's it. And if a suspension, and if they mandate him go to some mental health counseling or some or another, all right, maybe that works. But if we just going to put the hammer down on you and be tough on crime, how much will that do?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because at first I was thinking 20 games, 25 games, 30 games. I mean, maybe so. But I think this is also something that I feel like the Grizzlies should have done this with their roster construction. I've always said that they needed a vet. They really didn't have a vet. The oldest guy that they had on their team was Steven Adams. And the crazy thing is, Steven Adams, for as long as he's played in the league, he's not even 30 years old. Now, he probably is 30 years old right now. But when they were at this point in the season, I think he was in his year 29 season. That's crazy to think about that. And they didn't have no vet, no Udonis Haslem, no Zebo, even as a team consultant. Maybe he is still a team consultant somehow, some way, just to say, hey, man, don't do that. And so he's probably going to need somebody like that. So maybe Zebo might have to be that guy. Allen Iverson definitely needs to be that guy for him. And I don't know if AI and the Grizzlies still got that beef with each other for all those years back. But if I'm the Grizz, hey man, get Zebo on the phone and tell him to talk to AI. I'm pretty sure he can broker the peace there.
Hey, you know what's wild? It's weird to think about how in the NBA over the last like 15, 20 years, the reason why this is a big story is because after the Malice in the Palace, that changed the NBA forever, right? And like the NBA ran so far away from being seen as a black league, like they made the dudes dress up with that silly dress code. They stopped playing rap music at the game, stopped having rappers show up and everything. And in the past almost 20 years, they've come around and turned around into now a family-friendly league, right? So this is like a big problem for them, a huge problem for them. Like the young NBA star, like he is in some ways the leader of the next generation, one of the leaders of the next generation. And he out here doing this stuff. And mind you, we've gotten it down in the NBA, like in terms of players getting in trouble to Ja Morant. It's just him, right? Like Zach Randolph 6-7 years ago got arrested for having a pound of weed in the trunk of a car and no one said a word. Same thing happened with Montrezl Harrell. No one said a word. Back 20 some odd years ago, it was Latrell Sprewell choking the head coach during practice. They've gotten this down to Ja Morant being silly. They've worked this down pretty well. So we got the last question of the night goes to my man Mark. Who is picking up Dylan Brooks? Lamar, who you think? What you
Shanghai. Shanghai Sharks. Nah, he'll go somewhere. Somebody in the NBA will pick him up. It's just who. That's the big question. I don't know who. Somebody that's probably needs a D3 wing. But he got to stop shooting, man. You ain't that guy.
And apparently he wants to be that guy. Homeboy was talking about, I can do more, but the Grizzlies don't allow me to do more and all this other stuff. Like, player, we've seen you shoot the basketball. You can't. You cannot. Like, yo, man, if Dylan Brooks wants the type of role, like Dylan Brooks wants to be a baller, Dylan Brooks wants to, create shots for himself, we gonna have to ask him, does he have his passport? Did he get his shots? Okay. Because Puerto Rico, Italy, China, wherever the hell Boogie Cousins and Dwight Howard and Jeremy Lin, yeah, wherever they're playing, wherever OJ Mayo is playing, that's who gonna let him do that. That's who's gonna let him take 20 some odd shots a game and pull up from 30. That's who's gonna let him do that. Some team in Australia that's in like the third level of the Euro League. That's who's gonna let him do whatever he wants. You think he'll do that in the NBA? He's smoking rocks.
I hope he got his TikToks ready, doing that dance.
Hope he don't go through customs with no weed, because they are not playing with you, sir. I hope Dylan Brooks don't go through customs with no weed. And that is going to be our show for tonight, folks. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Lamar Gafford, my man, SinLivePreps.com. Let the folks know where they can find all of your work.
Yeah, you can find my work on SinLivePreps.com. Once again, that is SinLivePreps.com. We have some things coming up. A couple of our area teams for baseball, softball, and track and field. We also got some top returning guys coming up for the next couple of football seasons. And also you can find my stuff on scorebooklive.com, also for the Louisiana area. So we got some things coming up for that as well. And you can also find me on Twitter at Lamar Gafford, all in one word, and on Instagram at Primetime2832.
All right. You guys can find me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That is T as in Tangeray, S like Eric Spoelstra, who coached M, the Miami Heat, who lost game 1 tonight. Follow the show on Instagram at _the Game Plan Podcast. Again, follow the show on our official Instagram at _the Game Plan Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to the Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel, wherever you're listening and watching, and however you are listening and watching. Thank you guys for listening and watching. For my main man, Lamar Gafford, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast live stream. We'll see you guys after game 2. You guys take it light.